Girls, what we're going to investigate here is the relationship between the social conditions of London, the poverty of London, and the rise of the serial killer, Jack the Ripper. Was there a relationship? We're going to investigate. So let's just read through this text. What can the Whitechapel murders tell us about the problems of Victorian society? So the Jack the Ripper murders were committed in the Whitechapel area of London, which was a slum district. That means that it was an extremely poor area. The housing was extremely poor. It was crowded and so on, in poor condition. To the right is a photograph of Bucks Row, Whitechapel. It was taken in the 1960s, but little had changed since 1888. The arrow points to the spot where John Neal discovered the body of Mary Ann Nichols below, known as Polly, in the early hours of Friday, the 31st of August, 1888. She was the first victim of the Whitechapel murderer, also known as Leather Apron, or most famously as Jack the Ripper. You might like to have a little think about why they might have nicknamed him Leather Apron. The identity of Jack the Ripper remains a mystery to this day. Okay, we've got a photo of the victim there, Polly. She's got a very nice smiling face. What was life like in the East End in 1888? So this is the East End of London. London in 88 was a divided city. The West End was the wealthy area and the East End was much poorer. Jack the Ripper operated in the East End for a variety of reasons. You can think about the reasons, girls. This is part of the task. Okay, these links here are to much easier versions of the information about London. So just click onto those. Life in Victorian Britain. A Victorian Britain refers to the time span of Queen Victoria on the throne. So she was on the throne from the late 1830s, so the Queen of England, Queen Victoria, late 1830s through to the end of the 19th century. So life in Victorian Britain, and we've got some articles and information here. So click onto that. Okay, now we've got the activity, place and opportunity. So facts about East London in 1888, the year that Jack the Ripper committed his crimes. We've got a photograph of top hat, cloak, man in a rather misty, smoggy, dark environment. Smoke and fumes choked the streets so badly that it was not even possible for people to see their own hands in front of their face at times. These smogs were called pea soupers because of the greenish colour. How could this factor have helped Jack the Ripper get away with the murders? So think about the desire of criminals not to be seen. Why don't they want their activities to be widely viewed? We've got an image here. There was little work available for women and no social security for those women who were unemployed. Many were forced to become prostitutes to survive. That's true. There were other ways that they could earn their living, but for some women, they were really forced to resort to prostitution. Now, the women who were the victims of Jack the Ripper's murders were not all prostitutes. For many such women, their only escape from their terrible lives was to drink. How did alcohol make the women more vulnerable, more open to attack, as they worked and travelled home from work. Well, think about the warnings that we give people today about drinking excessively. It does make them vulnerable to attack, doesn't it? So you fill in, how could each of these factors helped Jack the Ripper get away with the murders? So have a think, write your ideas. You've made your own copy of this document. After you've done that, you're going to get onto Canvas and involve yourself in the discussion. Is Jack the Ripper likely to be a local person? Remember that these crimes were committed in Whitechapel. Did he live in or around Whitechapel, do you think? Do you think he hated poor working women in particular? Because all of his victims were poor working women. Or do you think it is more likely that he had opportunity to kill such women? So join the Canvas discussion on profiling a cold case killer. We want to hear your point of view.